Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Gear Talk. We do this every other Thursday at 5 o'clock. Where have you been for the last few years since we've been doing these? Today, we are talking about probably one of the longest videos I am ever going to do. This character has come up so much in the books, not as much in the books, but he's been in the books, the comics most definitely, and also the games he has come up in. I am talking, of course, of Jace Stratton. Oh my goodness, you would not believe how much information this man is involved in. Like, there's so many things that happens in Gears of War. Like, there's things in the story, there's things like, just story-wise, just like books, comics, games, all of that. He falls into, like, all of it. He's involved with, like, all of it. There's very rare times he's not around. Like, for the first game, I was going to say second. He's in the second game. For the first game, he's not in it. I believe for the first book, he's not in it. But then, after he is introduced in the comics, almost all of the comics, there's very few he's not in. Then you have basically every game from 2 forward, take away Judgment and 4. And the guy just appears everywhere. Half the time he's not even doing much, and the other half, he's the main character. You're going to see what we're talking about. Let's dive in and take a look at Jace Stratton. It's important while we go through his entire story to state a lot of his stuff as we go down is basically like pulled from different areas as the story's told. What I mean is, it's a situation where he's in there and we get his childhood now and then thrown in, and we're gonna go in chronological order, so we're gonna talk about his childhood. Then you get moments where there's flashbacks, like him and Alex will be hanging at the bar and he's gonna tell a story from when he was first a Gear. That's a thing that happens. We're gonna go down, I've compiled everything best I can in the order of operations involving the books. He doesn't do much in the books, but he does touch in and happen sometimes in the books for what goes on. I have compiled a long list of things. This is probably the longest I've ever written down for notes involving a character. So we're just going to start at the top, work our way down. If you hear panting, don't mind that. Frank's just a warm boy right now. It is very warm in this room. If you saw the Hoffman video, you know what happens in this room, how warm it gets. But we're going to go down the list from the very beginning, starting off with his early life, when he was just a child. Jace is like one of the only characters I believe we ever get. We get his full basic life that we get in story. Like all the way from when he's like 6 to 8 years old, I have at the beginning, all the way up until we have the current games where he's probably close to 40s to 50s. So I have an entire list of things. He was basically just a kid, just raised up, living normal life over in Olima. His mother, father, his grandparents lived with him. He had his brother. They just lived there. They were just living life, just, having a normal family. And that all changed when E-Day happened. That is right. E-Day hits. It hits Olima, his hometown, one of the areas where it comes up on. And he ends up on E-Day losing everything. He's one of the characters in the story that loses it all. There's a lot of characters that lose everyone. Jace is one of them. Everyone's gone. Everyone is dead. The last person that is actually somewhat still alive before they pass is his brother, who he holds on to until his brother passes in his final moments. And then once all of that happens, the building collapses, and he's still alive. Jace is still alive in all of this, and the Locusts are going through. Drones, they're leading basically a big old berserker through there, and the berserker is sniffing through for humans, and Jace, as a child, you would expect, is freaking out. It's the boogeyman incarnate that has just come forward. During all of this, the situation is that he's basically thinking he's gonna die, when out of nowhere, 2 Gears kick open the door, because they're looking for survivors and fighting off the Locusts. They actually take out these 2 unnamed Gears, which are pretty badass in their own right, end up taking out the Locusts that are there, and the berserker, and then inside comes Dr. Wisen. Wisen is also there. He's basically looking for survivors too, and he is able to pull Jace out of it. And Wisen runs the orphanage, which you're gonna guess where Jace ends up going to. And he basically says, hey, it's okay, everything's gonna be fine, I'm here to help you. And that's how Wisen comes into the picture as like the surrogate parent figure, the surrogate father figure that basically is with Jace for the rest of the time being. We don't get anything from Jace anymore in story until we jump to the evacuation of Olima. When we get to Olima, we first meet Jace when he's actually locked over in one of the cages, like a bank vault kind of, over at the bank. Because he got like roped in to getting evacuated with a large group of people that were leaving from where the bank was. Things got really crazy and he got like separated from the group. The Locusts attacked and he was able to actually make it into the bank, and he got into one of these cages and was able to live. He lived long enough for another group of Gears to come through, this being Zeta Squad. Zeta comes across him and he's trying to fight off everything. He's got a baseball bat, that's all he's fighting with. And that's when Valera steps forward and asks who he is. I'm Jace Stratton, and she basically says, like, come with us, we're going to get you out of here, we're going to get you evacuated, and out of Ilima in general. He does travel for them for a very short period of time before they do get him to the evac zone where they need to get him out of there. They have to fight off a Brumok and get everything safe and sound, but they do get him there, and they basically tell him, like, hey, that's your ride, see you later. We'll be seeing you later on. Have a good one, Jace. And he's like, whoa. I'm not going with? What do you mean I'm not going with? Because originally they were going to go through and look for things, and they were going to look for other survivors. Jace under the idea that they were going to also head towards the high school and look for Jayson, who is also the high school principal, along with the owner of the orphanage. We're going to go there, and he's like, whoa. I thought, what do you mean I can't come with? And they basically tell him, like, hey, it's dangerous. You're a civvy. This is like your only way out of here. There you go. So he does ask Zeta, like, hey, can you at least do me the favor of looking for my pops Jayson? I believe he says his pops. If not, like, again, it's his father figure. To go check on Jayson, see if anyone needs saving, because he knows that Jayson would have tried saving people also to get them out of there, and go and see if there's an evac point. They do agree to this. They'll go take a look and see what they can find. And this is when he loads up and he actually heads out with evacuation. But the evacuation doesn't just head out of town. It's going around, I believe, looking for other survivors when they're contacted later on by Zeta. Zeta does make it to the orphanage, past the high school, past everything, and they're going there, and they find Jayson. They're going to get everyone at the orphanage and get them out of there. Jace steps out, and he looks over everything like, hey, okay, everyone's fine. And this is when the Locusts once again attack. When everything is happening with the Locusts, actually behind comes General Rom, and gets a hold of Jace, planning to kill Jace right then and there. He's able to kick Rom away for a moment when Valera gets involved, and he ends up grabbing Valera instead and killing her. And Jace takes this a little bit hard because out of all the gears, him and Valera were getting along the best. Like, he basically saw it as, like, you know, big sis Valera in a way. He only knew them for so little of time, but he had that kind of connection. So when it's decided between going back to the orphanage and going further on to fight with Zeta, he chooses to go fight with Zeta. He runs up to Valera's body, grabs the Lancer. This is when Barrick's there and says, do you know how to use that? Basically, he offhandedly shoots and kills a Locust with it. And he looks at Jace, Barrick does, and says, make her proud, and he joins Zeta onto getting back to the orphanage, basically holding him off before they separate, and they have to make their way back to get everyone evacuated. While they're trying to fight their way back, they do fight many enemies. Jace does hold his own. Again, he's only roughly like 17 or 18 at the time, and he's holding his own with Zeta. He's fighting off Locusts. They do make it back to the orphanage, and this is when Rom appears again, and they fight Rom. He is with Zeta fighting against Rom, and against all odds, they hold off General Flippin' Rom before a Krillstorm's about to hit. They're able to hold off, and this is when Ty and Barrick are getting people up to evac. While this is going on, Barrick's got to turn around and go get Kim, because Kim, like a genius, is trying to take Rom on in a one-on-one. Doesn't happen. They get back onto the helicopter, onto the Raven, and they get out at the last possible moment, the last opening in the sky. They're able to fly out. While all this is going on, Barrick is trying to find his lighter because he believes he dropped it somewhere, and Jace pulls it out from the side and lights it up so that Barrick can get his cigar lit. And remember this lighter, because once again, this lighter will be coming up later on. He takes a big old smoke from it and says, you're going to make one mean gear, kid. And guess what? He very much does become one mean gear. We do see Jace has become a gear. He has actually joined in, and he made it through. He made it through trainings, and he is now on to his first mission he's ever been a part. With him is another character by the name of Gil Gonzalez. Him and Gil got along very well in training. He basically becomes Jace's Dom. Gil is basically Diet Dom we have here, and they're buddy-buddy, and they fight alongside in a lot of operations starting off in their careers. We have it where they're a part of Operation Midnight, being their first mission that they actually go through and they are a part of. For Operation Midnight, basically what it is during like the later towards the evening or night, him along with the rest of Midnight is sent out, and they are to go and defend a bridge, basically for a convoy to make their way through. So they have to go and defend a bridge. During this mission, he's actually split into two teams. You have Jace over here and the rest of the teams. So basically two different teams, one to take the far end, for them to take the other. The far end is actually going to make their way under, check the under portion of the bridge to make sure everything's fine and dandy, no explosives or anything like that. While everything is going on, while everyone's checking, while they're defending the top, we actually have a situation where the bridge is attacked. And this attack comes from a Theron guard group led once again by General Rom. Now remember, it's been years since Rom has come in contact with Jace. And it's weird because if you think about it, Jace is one of the only characters that has ever come across Rom and actually lived multiple times. I think he's the only one to meet him multiple times between games and still be alive. So he first met him when Rom tried to kill him, and Rom's back again. In the comics, you don't get a lot of interaction between them because the comics came out before you had the situation of release date-wise 3 and Zeta. So you don't get much of an interaction. But you do need to understand timeline-wise, this is not their first time meeting. It's assumed in the story, because of how dark it is, that they can't correctly or very well see the Therons that well. By how it's looked at in the story, like they understand the Therons are there and they're attacking, but they don't know like how many, what they look like, they don't know. So the humans are having a hard time seeing that. I don't even believe they know if General Rom is there also, but Rom is leading the charge. And over on the Theron side, it is assumed by the look of it, they know what they're aiming and hitting right now. So Rom very much does see who's over on the bridge. In my head canon, I'd like to assume he knows Jace is there, and he's like, that dude kicked me in the head. I'm gonna kill him. I'm assuming that's it. They go through, and while they're defending the bridge, there's a situation where a torque bow is shot. One of the bolts goes right past Jace, and actually over on his right side, I believe, it clips his ear. So he actually loses the top portion of his ear. It's gone. He doesn't have it anymore as of this part. So in the games, you see that he has both his ears perfectly fine, but it is canonically stated from this point onwards, he's missing half of his right ear. It's not there. Right or left, I believe it is the right side. I could be wrong. It could be the left, but I believe it's the right ear. While this battle is going on, actually some gears are losing their lives. The Therons are putting in the work. So it does seem at a few moments in the story, and even towards the ending, that Midnight is going to die. The squad Midnight, it looks like they aren't going to have a good time here. The Therons have them basically guerrilla warfare. They've got them visibilities on their side, and it really is hard to see. Like, they're trying to regroup, and they finally do, but they're not having the best time trying to hold anything off. Again, like, you have this one bridge where they're in the open, and around them are the trees and everything the Therons are fighting on, making their way to the bridge. It does seem like all hope is lost until there is backup that arrives in the form of ravens. When the ravens appear, they hit the lights, they shoot down and mow down all the Therons that are coming in. They finally do take out everyone. Rom jumps into the river under the bridge and does survive. He loses all his Therons, but he does live. And this is actually the last time these two ever come in contact with one another, because Jace really doesn't have anything to do involving Rom from here on out. This kind of just evolves into Delta's situation when they have to deal with Rom way further in the future. But this is the first mission he was ever on. It does end in a success. Him and Gil, they do live and they do continue onwards. Why, hello there, and it seems that if you're hearing this, that means I picked quite a few picks of oopsie daisies out of the field. So what I'm talking about is, by what you just heard, I mentioned how this is Jace's first mission, how he's very green to everything. Even in the comic, it says he's very green. He's a greenhorn for all of this. This is also taking place, this mission, I was wrong in the timeline. This takes place in 14 AE, so this is still a ways into the future. The reason I bring that up is because what's going to come next, with I explain, I very lightly go over some of the book stuff, like just in the slab, is that Jace was already out on the field by 10 AE. 4 years before Operation Midnight. I'm assuming it's a retcon. Obviously, it's not like Karen Travis and the guys who are working on the comics were like in going back and forth between everything. So, yeah, the order of operation should go that it is them going through and assisting with the Adam Phoenix situation, which we're going to talk about. And then after that, the next thing that would have been up is Operation Midnight. So little retcon that they did there. The last thing I'm going to bring up is when I mentioned the Adam Phoenix situation that Jace is assisting in, there's a whole lot more that he's doing. He is with Delta at that point. So when he's very new, he's with Delta in 10 AE. It's a continuity error. It's a little wrong there just because a lot of the stuff in the comics mentions how he's new to a lot of things, and then this book is kind of like, well, he's already been doing this for 4 years. So just one of those continuity situations. Really take it yay or nay, however you want to do it. If you want to put the comics before the books, if you want to put books before the comics, I prefer putting books before the comics. So I guess Jace just wasn't really doing a lot for 4 years until he actually got some action heavily with Marcus and the others 4 years later, I guess. So anyway, back to the story I'm telling. Take it away, me. It goes from here. It's very odd because the timeline is it's interesting because it goes from this situation right here to the situation where it's like we're talking years or maybe even months, late months into many years in the future. It's very odd how the time frame works between books and the comics. But we do have the situation where he is fighting alongside, and he is with Delta right now. This is his first time he's ever with Delta, and he's fighting alongside everyone. I believe it's him, Dom, Marcus, and Ty are all in a squad. And this is the situation where Marcus's dad is about to die, apparently. And the situation where Marcus does his massive betrayal of basically says, screw all of you, I'm going to go save my dad. And he leaves, and he goes and fights. He gets backed up later on by Jace and Ty, and they're backing him up, and they're the ones that pull Marcus out when he goes unconscious, and they get him out of there. But at the time, he was with him, fighting alongside the others, and was the one that helped with evacuating Marcus out of that situation when they thought Adam was dead. From this point onwards, we jump 4 years into the future. So we're jumping quite a ways. Like, if you think about it, it wasn't even years he would have been in boot camp. Probably just a few. And they were probably pushing gears out pretty quick. So he probably went in there right after he was saved by Zeta. Came out probably around 10 AE. And at this point, he would have been with Operation Midnight. Helped out Marcus with the Adam situation. And now he is placed 4 years later. He is sent back into Delta. This time, we have the situation where it is him, Marcus, Ty, and we get Dizzy. So we need to talk about this one really quick, and we'll continue forward. So Dizzy. Continuity is interesting when you have early Gears of War media. It really, really is. Because Dizzy, this all happens roughly about a few months to like half a year before Dizzy's introduced in 2. All of this stuff happens after the first game, and this is like one of the, like, he's still kind of green, but not that green. He's had some other missions, but he hasn't done anything major for Jace. He hasn't done anything crazy. He hasn't been in major firefights, aside from Midnight happening and helping get Marcus out. There hasn't been anything major. We find him in a small skirmish with these 4, and Dizzy's there because of the fact that, okay, timeline-wise, Dizzy could have very well been a part of the COG, and how my headcanon's going for this to make it all fit is that when he first joined the COG, he was probably placed on a squad just to be a part of a squad, and that squad he was placed on was Delta with Marcus, Ty, and Jace. He spent a very short stint there, probably his only mission, and then they moved him over to the motor pool to be driving the big rig. So that's how I see it. That's the best way to explain it, because canonically, Dizzy was there with the other 3, so that's how we're just going to have to go with it. This is also when he ends up being back on the same squad, Jace, with Ty. They're both on the same squad again. And I'm assuming during all of this, they probably talked about things just like, hey, Ty, look at me, I joined. And Ty's very stoic. He's probably like, welcome to, I don't know, like, what would Ty say? He'd be like, welcome to the big leagues. This is now the real battle. Or something like that. Make it all mystic, and they're like being cryptic as ever. I'm assuming that that's probably what he would have said. He wouldn't have had anything like, oh, if it isn't Jace, I remember saving you. Come here, give me a hug, man. How's it going? That's not Ty. He's probably like, we welcome you to the fold as the true battle begins. Probably how Ty would do it. But yeah, he ends up meeting Ty, and it's just like one of Zeta is here with him, and it's like, yay, the guys who saved me, I'm one of you now. Yeah. Aside from that, there is a conversation they actually do have. During the entire situation where they're done with a battle that's going on, you have it where Ty is talking with Jace. Jace is just uncomfortable with all of this death going on. And Ty does talk to him about death and like how it operates, functions, and how it's just like, you know, it's a thing. Like, death is a thing, basically. He's trying to like make him understand how they see it as Gears, because Jace really did like grow up seeing a lot of this stuff, but he's now in it as a soldier. You need to understand, for Jace, this is whole new terrain he's dealing with. He's a soldier. He's been doing this for quite a few years, but he's never been in the heavy thick of it. As we're going to see in the next story that comes up, that's when the real true battle with Jace begins, where he's on the front lines, he's pinned down, he's firing. This isn't being ambushed by Locusts. This isn't a situation where he's doing smaller missions or he's the rook. He's actually taking some charge now with the story coming up, taking place originally starting in the pure Badlands before they make their adventure all the way to Montevideo. From here, Delta Squad gets rearranged a bit. We actually have it where Ty and Dizzy are both sent out. Ty is actually sent to a different squad, while Dizzy is sent out to be piloting and driving the big rigs from now on, like with Betty. That's where he's sent off to. So we actually have it where Dom comes back into the mix, and he's now back with Delta. And we now have Gil returning also. So we now have Jace and Gil back together again. So basically, like I said, it's like Marcus and Dom, and then Diet Marcus and Diet Dom are teamed up now. While they're exploring, they're actually separated, where Gil and Dom are actually over on Delta 2, basically, and they're looking for other gears, basically. During this story, how it starts with Hollow, this is the name of the comic series for this story, we have it where they're looking for other gears. They're sent out after the Light Mass Bomb was sent off. A lot of gears they were missing. They were kind of looking for the other squads to see what was going on and to make sure they're okay. While they're looking, they're not having any luck, but Marcus and Jace over on Delta 1 come across a large band of Locusts that are attacking them. During this battle, Jace has his inner monologue and he's speaking. This is his first big time, oh crap, fight against a large, heavy amount of Locusts. For Marcus, this ain't his first time. If you played the games, you know he does this on a daily. Jace, this is his first big time against major numbers. This has not happened to him before. Again, the Theron guards, there weren't a lot of them and they were ambushed. The other stories we see in those 4 years, he wasn't doing that much. He was a cog soldier, but he was never like, you versus giant group, let's see you do it. Never happened until now. They do regroup with the others. Marcus is basically able to take out the rest of them, no problem. They do regroup with everyone, and you learn that Dom and Gil actually did come across another member of the cog. That member being Michael Barrick. It's important we talk about Barrick's continuity now, because that is another thing we have to speak of. So we've already talked about Ty and how they probably interacted. We've talked about how Dizzy fits into all of this with his continuity. Like I said, the comics were around early before a lot of the book stuff was going through and before they conglomerated it all into one story with comics, books, and games. So Barrick, at this time, and I mentioned it in the Barrick video, we're going to go over it quick right here just so you understand what's going on. There is a situation where everyone meets Barrick and everyone's talking and asking about Barrick, even Jace. During the conversation, it's never really brought up, or it's alluded to, but it's not actually brought up that this is their first time meetings. Now, release order, this is their first time they've ever met, period. It is. But when we're actually looking at it from the conversation they're having, you can kind of weasel it through that they do know each other and that it's just been a while and they're not talking to each other like newbies. They're just talking to each other in general about him being like new to the cog and not a new person in general, kind of. That's how you can kind of take it when it comes to the conversation. Instead of him saying like, you're a new person I'm meeting, it's kind of like you're a new member of the cog. That's how I see it. I explained it well in the Barrick video if you want to go take a look. It's just a situation where, yes, they've already met in the timeline, but when this story was released, it was before that, so by continuity of when this first came out, no, they don't know each other. Continuity of everything all together, they do actually know each other at this point, and they've spoken before. Once Barrick joins the crew, and it's now 5 soldiers walking along, they do decide, hey, I think it's time we head back to Jacinto. Our mission was to find others. We were only able to find Barrick. We're going to bring him back. That's the mission. So they decide to start taking the trek to Jacinto. While they're going there, basically we have the situation here of where everyone's walking and talking, and Jace is thinking, having his inner monologue, thinking about Marcus Phoenix and how much like a hero he is, a symbol of what it means to be a gear. Fun fact, actually, if you look through the trivia on the wiki, it actually states that the armor design that Jace went with his armor, he was trying to base it somewhat alludingly to Marcus. He was trying to base his armor off Marcus because he sees him as like, this is my idol, kind of. This is Marcus Phoenix. You know, he fought in the Pendulum Wars. He's a hero amongst the cog right now. He's my hero, man. It's Marcus Phoenix. While they're traveling, they do decide, like, hey, we've traveled for a while. We're going to set up camp here, and we're just going to just wait out the night, and then we're going to continue on foot in the morning. In the morning, they do decide to continue trekking forward. They do come across another camp that's kind of set up. It looks like it's abandoned, and they think this is probably looking like it's a trap. They take a look inside, and there is a beacon there. This is, in fact, a trap set up by the Locusts. And to start off this entire brawl, it starts off by Gil getting shot right through his shoulder. He takes one right to his shoulder, and he drops. He's still alive, but it's like right down here. It goes right through. It's a in and out. So he's bleeding, and Jace is sitting there trying to kind of stop the bleeding and get him to safety. While he's doing that, everyone else is fighting. Marcus is fighting. Barrick is fighting, and they are just ringing the numbers. They are fighting heavy. While the fighting is going on, though, we do have the situation where Jace and Gil end up being pinned down, so he can't continue to move Gil out of the situation and Gil is still bleeding. So while they're fighting, a larger horde comes through. Another one that was like the earlier fight that Jace had when he was with Marcus. And they are still able to fight off everyone. Michael Barrick puts in all of that work, and he takes them down heavy. During that large invasion, though, the boomers also arrive. And the boomers, of course, are causing trouble, shooting off, boom, boom, all of that. And Marcus, Barrick, they take him on, they take him down. During all of this, though, the situation happens where Gil does end up bleeding out. And he bleeds out in Jace's arms, and we do see from the earlier story with his family, this is kind of the exact way that his brother also bled out and died in Jace's arms earlier. So Jace ain't having a good time. We can kind of touch on this now, because it's brought up, like, how much he remembers later on in another story about his family. We're just going to touch on it right now to get it out of the way. He remembers his family well enough to know how they were. So, like, when he thinks about them, he thinks about them fondly. He thinks about them like, oh, they were loving because I think about a house of love. They must have cared for me. I don't think about worry or fear when I think of my family from the beginning. And that's all he kind of remembers. Like, he doesn't remember the faces that well. It's been a long time. He doesn't remember their faces. He vaguely remembers who was around, but he does remember his family. He just can't remember the exact details. So he knows that he held his brother when he died, and he's holding Gil. He knows that for a fact. But a lot more of the details as time goes become a bit more fuzzy to him because the time keeps on going and going. He was only 6 or 8 when they died, and right now he's like probably, what are we looking at right now? Probably early 20s. So this is easily getting close to 2 decades since he ever last saw anyone in his family. So he remembers the fondness, but he can't remember the specifics, if that makes sense. During this entire time, like I said, with his family, he's thinking about Gil, and he can't bring himself to cry. He's not feeling like crying. He just feels numb, empty. He just feels there's nothing. So they do decide, hey, even though he's dead, he's here, we fought off the Locusts, we're going to bring him back to Jacinto. Because normally how it works with the Gears, we learn from Marcus way later in the story when he's retelling the story of everything that happened during the Locust War in 4. We learn that a lot of the time the Gears left their people, the dead bodies, because they didn't have time to bring them back. Because at the time there were a lot more things going on, and it was like, they're already dead. Yeah, we do want to mourn them and honor their memories, but we don't have the time to start bringing people back. They do clear everything out, and they are able to bring Gil back. And they ride all the way back to Jacinto. Everyone's there. They finally get back. And this is how funerals kind of work after the Locusts. So they get to Jacinto, and along with many other dead Gears that have passed that were able to be brought back, Gil's added to them. They're placed in the center of a square of the town, and they light the bodies on fire, all of them at once, basically in one large mass burning. Because it's kind of seen as like they don't bury their dead anymore because of the nightmares that came from below. They'd rather just send them to the skies by burning them. That's how they see it now, ever since the Locusts decided to, piss everyone off with E-Day. After they get back to Jacinto, all 4 members of Delta, well, I should say 3, because technically we have Barrick. He's not a member yet, but he also came back. All 4 of them are given leave. So they're given leave for about 1 week. So during that leave, Jace actually takes it among himself to go back to the orphanage to go and see Dr. Wisen. Because again, Wisen's like his father. He wants to go and see him, and he just wants to go and talk to him. You learn that he's still taking it pretty hard about Gil, and you have the situation where he's, like, Wisen says, like, go and visit the children. Like, go and say hello to them. They love seeing you. And he's like, I can't see them right now. I'm not in the right place. I can't go and see them. Maybe next time I will go and say hello to the rest of the orphans. Because again, this was his home. The orphans do see him as like a big brother, so it's not like, they're not going to know who Jace is. They all know who Jace is. Wisen probably tells them all the time about Jace. But after the leave is done, he is actually contacted to come in for a briefing and get his new mission orders. He's given his new orders with the rest of Delta, so he's staying with Delta for this mission, and those new orders are, you need to go to Montevideo, or Montevideo, depending on how you want to say it. It's Montevado I have right here. So I'm just going to go with Montevado with how it's spelled. So they have to go to Montevado. And they're going to go to Montevado because they're getting very unusual seismic activity that's coming from the city. They've been looking at all their readings and everything, and this one isn't making sense. They want a squad to go and figure out what's going on and then come back with information. It's brought up by everyone like, okay, there's 3 members of the squad right now. Like, who's our 4th member for Delta? Like, are we just all 3 going? You do learn that they have decided now they are going to put Barrick on the squad now. So now, in Delta, you have Marcus, Dom, Jace, and Barrick all of them heading to Montevado. They are assigned a Raven that is going to fly them all the way over to Montevado, drop them off, get the information, and fly them back. They get onto the Raven, and they're going to be going through some areas, because Montevado is actually a ways away from Jacinto. The first place they're going for are actually the Dorado Hills. The Dorado Hills are basically like a very hilly, like the Black Hills near North Dakota. That's basically what they're like. A very hilly area, kind of deserty. It's very dry, and this is where they're flying through, and they are actually attacked, and they are bombed from a cedar, and the helicopter is actually taken out. It's still in the air, though. That's the thing. The pilot gets destroyed and killed. While they're in the air, they're already going to be going down, but someone needs to find a way to get this thing landing before they crash and die. While they're trying to figure out who can fly this thing, it is brought up from Jace that while he was in training, he did learn the basics of how to fly a Raven. He only knows the basics, and he does not know landing, but he does know how to technically fly one. They basically all say, like, this is gonna end poorly, but Marcus is like, we don't really have any other options. So they get him in there, and he's kind of like just over the pilot like this, and he's basically just trying to get it into a way where like they can land without dying, without crashing and burning up and gone. So they're going through kind of just like barely going. They end up hitting the ground on the side. The side with the blades, basically. The blades of a helicopter are put on its side, and he ends up, like, dragging it along with how they land. Up forward is the E-hole that the Locusts are coming out from when the cedar hit them. And as he goes, the blades actually go right through and slice up and kill all the Locusts in the way. Barrett comes out. He's been pissing his pants the whole time. He's like, we're gonna die here. He looks at what Jason, he's like, now that is how you do it. That right there, kick ass. And from there, now that the Raven's gone, and they're pretty much a far way off from control, because they can't really get comms that well here, they can't call for like another one, they decide we're going to have to go on foot from here on out, and it is a long trek. They're actually walking for quite a few days. They don't really go into the days amount, but they do mention, like, days. They are walking through these areas. Like, it is a very long way to Montevado, and they have just been going and going. They do come across a stranded on their journey there, that's stranded by the name of John Boy. So John Boy is a stranded that was actually out, I think, just doing recon, or he was just scavenging, and he comes across them, and basically they talk to him, and he brings them back to his village, his group of stranded, and it's never straight. I don't think it's stated who the leader of the village was. It might have been John Boy, but I don't think it was. But they make it to the city, or the town, I should say, that they put together. And the town, I can only say it once because YouTube has all of its rules, so I'm just going to say it once to get it out of the way. The town they end up is the town of Fucked. And this town is actually where they come across, the stranded come up to them and say, hey, you're going to Montevado. We've basically heard it's a ghost town. It's just not good for anyone to try and go there. We haven't heard anything from anyone there in a while. We'll make you a deal. If you really want to get there, we do have vehicles that you can take to get there. We will give you one of these vehicles to get over there. In exchange, we need you to kill some Locusts for us. There are Locusts that have been raiding us and attacking us, and if you can deal with them for us, we will get you there. We'll make sure you can get to Montevado. We'll give you something you can ride. They basically take up the deal, and they make easy work of the Locusts. It's barely any panels. Basically, boom, they're dead. Okay, we're ready to go. And they're like, well, the deal's the deal. While they're prepping everything and they're preparing the journey to go back to Montevado, we actually have the situation where there's a small girl that Jace comes across, and it seems like a very, like, not even frightened, but just very downtrodden, very quiet girl. And Jace has a very fondness for children. Again, he was an orphan. He grew up around children. He cares much for the orphanage with Dr. Wisen. As the story goes, you'll see he very much, like, he has a soft spot in his heart for children. So in this situation, when he sees Lily and he gets the backstory of her, you learn from John Boy that her family ended up going to Montevado, and they left her there to be safe. It's been a long time, and they have not returned. So they decide, like, hey, what if, Jace brings up, what if we took her with us, Marcus, and we brought her back to Montevado, where she can basically be reunited with her family, we can see what's going on. Marcus is very hesitant about this, because first off, they're soldiers, they can't just be bringing children around everywhere. This child, it's very obviously Jace is doing it for a good reason, but it's just like, we might come across Locust, and she can be put in danger. And Marcus is hesitant until John Boy steps in, and he says, like, hey, there is, like, this town is not a good place to be, like, having the child just by themselves. There's a reason this town is named what it is. Basically alluding to, like, it's not a safe place for a child. And Marcus is like, point taken. Okay, Lily, you, the child, get into the vehicle. we're getting out of here. Let's go to Montalvado. And they start their journey once again. While they are journeying, they're getting back there. They're driving through the area again. It's going a lot quicker than before. You have the situation where they're bringing Lily with, and Jace is kind of keeping her company, talking to her a little bit, trying to keep her spirits a little bit up. Like, we're going to go find your mom and dad. Don't worry, we're going to do it. While all this is going, the Locusts do actually attack the APC they're riding inside of. So once they attack, it's kind of a situation where, like, the APC is going to be the safest place. So they get out and start to fight, and Jace makes sure, like, Lily, you stay here, because the last thing that's going to happen is they're going to blow this thing up compared to blowing us up. They're going to try and take them out while keeping the APC safe. Not only because of Lily, but also because of the fact that that's their way of getting to Montalvado, and I have a strong feeling none of the four want to start walking again. While everything's going on and they're battling, they're actually holding their own quite well. A Brumok does appear, and at this point, everyone's like, oh crap, it's a Brumok. The Brumok starts firing off and actually it doesn't hit the APC, but it shoots off towards Jace. It doesn't hit Jace, but it hits close enough to Jace where Jace is blown back, and it knocks him out. He's knocked out for it says only a few moments. He's not out that long. Marcus gets over there, and he actually shakes Jace away, like, come on, you gotta wake up, let's go. And they start to get into cover. They keep being pinned down by the Brumok, and they're trying to keep themselves away from the APC, so that the APC doesn't get hit with collateral damage and kill Lily inside of it. While all this is going on, they're kind of like, how do we kill this thing? We have nothing that can currently kill the Brumok. How are we going to take this thing out? When it looks like all hope is lost, everything is destroyed and gone, and there's no hope at all, in comes Sigma Squad. Now, if you don't know who Sigma Squad is at this point, after the events of Gears of War 1, you have Baird and Cole were sent off out of Delta, because they were never originally part of Delta. They were part of Alpha. Alpha got destroyed, and they were sent out to be a part of Sigma Squad. Sigma Squad, they roll in. It's just the two of them. They broke off from Sigma, and Cole comes in with a boom shot and starts firing off at the big old Brumok, and he's like, let's go! Woo! You and me, baby! You know how Cole is. Cole's going in to kill. That's just how he is. They are able to kind of get its distraction away from them, and they're able to drive away. Barrett actually gets things hooked up and gets the APC out of there. And while they're driving off, the Brumok actually goes under a group of rocks and has them fall and kills the Brumok. So while they're escaping, the Brumok does get killed by falling rocks and debris. Jace makes a beeline for the APC to check on Lily, because he doesn't know what's going on right now. This thing was just in the middle of a war zone. A Brumok was near. They just pulled this thing. He is expecting the worst when he opens it up. His thoughts are just like, is it going to be like my family? Is she just going to be dead? Is it going to be a horrible mess in here? Like, he's hoping not. He is hoping it's not like that. He does open up the top hatch and get in. He looks in and he sees that Lily is fine. Lily's okay. She's a bit shaken up because everything that was happening, but she's okay. There's no damage. She's safe. Barrett and Cole at the end of it all do tell them the reason they appeared in the first place was because they could hear what was going on through comms. They were in a valley next to the valley that they're currently in, and they were able to pick up the comms from Marcus's group. Jace actually meets Baird and Cole for the first time. This is his first time meeting them, because remember, he was moved to a different squad during everything in the first Gears of War, everything that involved like the books and stuff where they were in contact with one another. They just weren't there. Now, with Baird, he kind of sees him as just like, Baird's an ass, but that's everyone's first impression of Baird. When he meets Cole, he knows who Cole is, he knows who the Cole train is, and he's happy to see like Cole is a very nice guy, even meeting him in person. And Cole's just like, number 83, the Cole train, baby. That's basic. I'm paraphrasing a lot of this, but understand, like, that was basically how the meeting went. I mean, Cole's Cole. You know how he's gonna interact with anyone. But yeah, Jace was a huge fan and was happy to actually meet him in the flesh for the first time. They do ask about what they know about Montalvado, and Baird basically tells them, like, it's a ghost town. Like, there's nothing there. Like, whatever you guys are going for the seismic activity, I don't know what it could be. Go nuts. And they do tell Baird, like, we're just going for recon to see what's going on. We're in the dark, basically, too. But yeah, they've been basically told as they're going, like, Montalvado, there's something going on there, but at the same time, it's desolate. So what is exactly happening? Once they are able to actually say goodbye to Sigma, and Sigma heads out with Baird and Cole, they are able to make it finally to Montalvado. When they make it there, they do enter into the city, and they see, like, yeah, it really is, like, a ghost town. There's nothing here. Like, there's no Stranded, there's no, like, Locust, there's nothing. So they decide to split into teams where we have Dom and Jace are going to be heading out to the northern part of the city, while Barrick and Marcus are also going to be heading out to look on the other half of the city, just to see what's going on. They're just reconning. They don't even know what they're there to look for. They bring it up a lot, too. Like, so we're here to look for seismic activity. That's odd. Makes sense if it's odd and we have to come, but we have seismic activity all over the place because of Locusts and everything. Why are we coming here specifically? And I don't believe they ever get an answer for that, why we specifically came. We as the readers learn later on why they were sent there and what the seismic activity is. But they are just like, what are we even looking for? Like, what would cause odd seismic activity when there's seismic activity all over the place? During all of this, while they're traversing and looking around, you have it where Jace and Dom actually do come across someone. They come across a Stranded. The Stranded is very panicky and freaking out, saying, like, you know, this place is horrible. This place is a death trap. Like, all ye who enter are dying. Basically, crazy man ramblings he has. And Jace and Dom are trying to talk. I'm like, okay, calm down. What's going on? Like, why are you going crazy on us here? While they're trying to figure all of this out with the Stranded, it's a situation where they are actually attacked by Locusts. You learn what killed all the other Stranded, and the Locusts coming in are just a pack, a big amount of wretches. Basically all wretches, they're coming in. While they're fighting, they tell the Stranded, like, you have to stay near us, we'll keep you safe, stay behind us. The Stranded does not listen and runs off. He ends up getting eaten by the wretches. Over on the other side of the town, we also have it where Marcus and Barrick are also being attacked, so everyone's fighting on their own ends. Seismic activity goes off. Go figure, in an area where they're looking for seismic activity, everything just collapses. You have it where Jace and Dom go down, Barrick and Marcus go down, and they all fall into the subparts of the city. When they fall, you actually have it where Jace, once again, gets hit hard and he's knocked out, and he's remembering his family and everything that happened, because, again, he's like, he gets things that land on him, he's injured, and he's remembering, like, when he was a child, he also had things land on him, and he was, like, pinned down before Wyzen found him and took him in. Once he comes to, kind of, it's actually Dom who finds him. Dom is the first one up, and he really thinks, like, kind of the same way Wyzen found me, same way Dom's finding me right now. Once they're done and he saves him and gets him back up onto his feet, they do, like, take a look and see what their situation is, and you have it where Jace is looking around and he sees that the Lancers they brought in, both of their Lancers are completely destroyed. They got crushed by the rocks, they're broken, and all they really have now are sidearms. They decide to start going through the subterranean portion of Montevideo just to see, like, a way back up, and they can kind of regroup with Marcus and Barrick at that point. They do come across a body, and the body looks like it's been dug into from the center. And Dom has an idea of what could have caused it, and he says this is looking a lot like how a heart leech would attack and kill. Jace has no clue what a heart leech is, so he says, well, what exactly are they? How do they attack? And Dom kind of explains what a heart leech is just a little bit. When he asks how they attack, Dom's like, I don't know how they attack. While they're traversing further into it, they are actually going deeper into it instead of going upwards. They go deeper in. They come across heart leeches that attack them, and they're able to hold them off and fight them off pretty well. While the battle is going on, a fire actually gets lit, and it illuminates everywhere they are. Above them everywhere is just clusters of heart leeches everywhere. And this is the sense of, oh, yippee skippy, I think we're about to die. During the fight, while everything's going on, you actually have it from the backside of the cave. In comes Marcus and Barrick, and they actually fight off the rest of the heart leeches, and everyone regroups. They do see that Marcus is injured, but Barrick has gotten hit pretty hard. His armor's been destroyed. Everyone's kind of looking worse for wear. They're low on weapons, ammo. They aren't having a fun time at all. So they decide from here on out they're just going to wait things out at the moment until they're picked up the next day, because it was already decided that a chopper would be coming in, a Raven, and they would be rescued through it, but it will be the next day it will be appearing. So they're just going to lay low, just chill, and wait for everything to just go over so that they can get out of there. Because this is a situation where they're like, we are underprepared for everything going on now. Jace does ask, like, hey, if this is a good time, I can actually go and look for Lily's parents, see what's going on. During that, there's some rumbling going on, and we have a Corpser punch its way right through the wall. But the Corpser does not attack. The Corpser actually, once it goes through, starts backing up, and out come the real threat that they're dealing with. We have the Riders with their blood mounts, and it ain't looking good, because by this point, they are the deadliest thing. They're fast, they have weapons. The blood mounts themselves are very, very dangerous and carnivorous. They now see us like, we don't have much ammo, we have to find a way to fight them, but we need to retreat. That's the only option we have here. While they're kind of just trying to escape and backing out, they are firing what they have left for weapons, but they do also come to the conclusion of, like, we can't do this, there's no way. So it comes down to Marcus stating, Dom, Jace, you both have to get out of here. You go, we're going to cover you. Leave. None of them are really happy about it, but they do go. Dom does state while they're leaving, like, Marcus does know what he's doing. He knows what is going to happen. It's fine. We're okay. We do learn from Marcus and Barrick's side of things. The reason he did that is because if Marcus and Barrick are going to die, they can at least buy time for them to get out of there. They are the two youngest. His job as head of the squad to kind of, like, keep the new recruits, like, we need to get out of here. Like, we'll save who we can. If some of us are going to die, Marcus always wants people to live compared to himself. He'll get people out before himself, and that's what he's doing here. They do end up crawling up, and they're climbing out of the sinkhole. By the time they make it to the top, that is actually a stranded camp they climb right up into. And basically, once they're up, everyone kind of just stops what they're doing. The stranded stop, Jace and Dom stop, and they're all like, hey. And it's kind of weird because it's just like, didn't think we'd actually find anyone. How's the camp doing? So they do make it up there, and they kind of relay with the Stranded. These are friendly Stranded they're dealing with, the situation and how they're going to be getting out of there. Dom does offer, like, hey, we can get you out on the Ravens if you want. We can get everyone out of here. Everyone will be safe. Jace takes this opportunity to talk to the camp and say, hey, I'm looking for 2 parents that came here. The parents of a girl named Lily. Do you know anything about them? He does get his answer. They know who they are, Blake and Emma. While they're up there, he's asking about it all, and it comes down to, hey, we do know what happened. You're not going to like the news. Blake did die. Blake is gone. He's no longer here. Emma is still alive, but barely. She does have an infection right now. A wretch actually, I believe it was her whole hand, bit her whole hand off. She was bleeding, and there's currently an infection that's affecting her at the moment. We don't really have any way to treat it. She doesn't have a lot of time left. So while they're kind of looking into that and trying to figure out what they're going to do, and they're going to figure out how to get Emma back so that Lily will at least have her mom, Marcus is actually climbing his way out of there. And they don't know topside yet because he hasn't reached them yet, but Barrick did stay behind and sacrificed himself for Marcus to get out of there since he was the head of the squad. While he's climbing getting to the top, he's going to be meeting up with Dom and Jace and pretty much, again, laying low and figuring out escape plans. Once he kind of gets up there, or he's close to it, there's another rumble that goes off and the cliff actually gives way. The only one that gets pulled down is actually Jace, and Jace goes flying downwards into this empty chasm of an area. Once Marcus gets up, he's like, what happened to Jace? What's going on? And they relay to him like, no, Jace just fell down. Like, he's back down there again. He doesn't fall all the way down to his death, though. That's one thing to bring up. Like, you see, like, the fall, there was, like, an outcropping from the wall that he lands on. So he's like, so here's the top, and here's the bottom down here, and, like, here's an outcrop right here that he lands on. So it does take the wind out of him, and again, he's knocked pretty heavy, but he is able to get back up. And wouldn't you know it, out of the cave portion on the side of this little outcropping comes a berserker. And he has full memories of the berserker from when he was a child. He remembers the berserker was there. And he knows what the berserker is, how it operates. And he's kind of trying to slowly get his way out of there. So he starts off by kind of just quietly moving. And he's trying to get to, like, the side of the lip of, like, the outcropping. So he can kind of just move his way over to the side. While he's going, though, there is sound that's made, and the berserker is aware someone is there currently at the moment. So while he's trying to basically live and get away from this thing, you do have up top, when they learn about what happened to Jace, you are able to get into contact now over with command, and Marcus does, and he says, bring a ladder with evac, we're going to need to get Jace out of here. And they do have a ladder. I'm assuming there was one all the way on, like, coming already, because of the fact that it took them, like, till morning to get the choppers there, so I'm assuming, you know, it probably, they were probably like, no, don't worry, Marcus, we already got one, don't worry, we're prepared for this. So, while Jace is trying to get out of there, they're able to take the chopper and slowly bring it down into this chasm with the ladder that Marcus is on. And basically, with the sound it's making, obviously the berserker's aware there's a helicopter there, but it's blind. It doesn't know it's on the outcropping. So he basically tells Jace, you have to jump towards me right now so we can get you out of here. And he jumps, gets a hold of Marcus, and they're able to go. The berserker runs forward, tries to get a hold of Jace, misses him, and falls down to the actual bottom, where we can presume that the berserker did die upon the landing, because, I'm sorry, a berserker's got armor, but that's still a pretty hefty fall it's about to take. They do, at that point, get onto the Raven, and they are able to make it back to Jacinto. Once they get there, they are given leave once again, and during this time, during this entire adventure, getting Lily reunited with Emma does make it, and she's alive. She's currently in a coma, but she does survive. Jace, and you learn this throughout the story about how he views hope and faith. He originally didn't really have a lot of it, but he gets rekindled into that idea. Like, for instance, at the end of this story of Hollow, he does have hope. He does have the feeling Emma will pull through and be with Lily once again. He's hoping. He's basically, he is religious. He is praying that she'll be all right. So once he gets leave, he starts to go, and this is like in a video game when, like, you go to the main hub for a character area where the others are and you can talk to them. This is basically what it is for Jacinto, because he goes and talks to everyone. He talks to Dom, and he gets the full layout about the Maria situation. Like, he's talking about Maria, and he's like, I hope you find your wife, man. He's like, I'm hoping I will. He goes and talks to Marcus. He's in the same area as Marcus, and Marcus tells him, like, hey, it was a right call you made to get Em out of there, a right call for Lily. It's difficult decisions, but you made the right one in order to save them. Like, because Marcus is all about that, saving people. So he's like, you know, I applaud what you chose to do. Like, Good call. During all this, he goes back to the orphanage, and he's actually willing to see the children again. Like, he's renewed somewhat from this adventure, this situation with Lily and everyone. He sees all of them, talks to them, and then he goes on over to the hospital section where Lily is there, and he's over there to go and check on Emma. She's still in the coma, but he's there with Lily, and Lily says, will she be okay? And he's like, I hope so. I think she'll pull through. And that's where we end this story. Cut to a few months into the future. Now that Hollow is done, we're jumping into our new adventure with Delta. This also involving Jace. Jace is still part of Delta at this point. He has not been moved, taken off, reassigned, anything like that. He is still with them. And they are currently in a situation where it's very weird. I don't remember the exact wording they use for the operation, but basically what it is, they're going out, and they have to go out and clear out an area where civilians would be and take out the locusts that are there. Kind of like taking care of the urban area so that the civilians are fine. The ones, I believe, that are outside of Jacinto. So they go out there in order to fight off the locusts. They are not alone in this mission, however, because there is another squad that is assisting them with all this, and that is Squad Foxtrot. So Foxtrot, we don't really get a lot of most of the members, but we get half of them. Half of them we get are actually a little closer to the area, and the other half have been sweeping through the area, and they're further out. So while they're going through and Delta's taking care of things, they actually get pinned down and attacked by locusts. And it's like, Foxtrot, I thought you took care of this because apparently there's still locusts here. And they say, yeah, we're going to come and help you out. It's going to be a few minutes, but we're coming. And they don't really have minutes. So they're held down. A sniper's got them, and they're trying to just fight them off in order to just survive at this point. The other half of Foxtrot that is actually close by, they do actually make it back to the scene and are able to assist. With them, they are just fighting off from the side, kind of just shooting off while Delta's over here pinned down. They're trying to get a hold of that sniper, trying to take him down so they're not pinned, but they're not having much luck. So out of nowhere, one of the soldiers actually makes their way and climbs up the tower, breakneck speed. Once they're up there, actually around the corner does come a ticker, and the ticker being so close to the sniper, it's kind of like, oh, you can kind of see where this is going. The individual basically blows the thing up and jumps off and takes out the sniper that's up there with the ticker explosion. Once they land, you do learn that this soldier's name is Alex. And they're just like, you know, Alex, that dude's pretty crazy, oh my goodness. And they're like, Alex, dude, what? Alex takes off the helmet. It is Alex Brand, another very well-known comic character in the Gears of War universe. Once everything is taken care of, that sniper's taken care of, they're all able to make it back to base, where they're able to do a debriefing of what went on, and they're also able to get their new mission orders, so there's no leave involved with this one. They're just mission to mission, back to back. Once the mission is given, they're actually told that they're going to be heading over to Jolene. Jolene is an area where the birthing camps once were. We're going to get into that in a little bit. There's a lot to go over with Jolene. So they're told they're going to go there because there is a beacon that is being sent off, a distress beacon, and they don't know who or why or for what reason in Jolene it'll be being set off. So it's constantly set off, so they're sending in a group of people to go and deal with this. They're sending in Delta Squad. They are also sending in a fraction of Sigma Squad and a fraction of Foxtrot. So it's a joint operation, and the two members that are going over from Sigma are Baird and Cole, and the member from Foxtrot is going to be Alex. They are all going to be going to Jolene to figure out what's going on. Alex is actually going as the scout, so she is the one that knows the area somewhat. It is her hometown. She even states this is where, like, I believe she was born, but she doesn't consider it her hometown. But she does know Jolene well enough on where they have to go, and then Sigma's just there basically as backup because they don't know what they're about to walk into. The next day, they actually do make their way to Jolene. There's not really any hiccups on their way there. While they are heading there, it is actually Alex who is pointing out where to go, and you have a lot of banter between Alex, Marcus, Bear, a lot of people, and it's nothing anything bad, but it's just like Baird has an issue with women, period. So that's where a lot of the issues come up for in this story involving Baird. Marcus is just a very well-known soldier, and Alex believes that he must have known about the birthing camps, and he's overheard them, but he never knew them personally. He was never told about them. He just overheard things. He doesn't know anything. Going back to it, they finally make their way to Jolene, and they're going out to start to inspect and see what's going on with this beacon that just so happens to keep going off. The belief from Jace at this point is that, like, maybe there are some people that are alive. He's hoping that some people actually did survive and they've been staying at Jolene and they're actually safe, and that's who's been setting off the distress beacon. The groups are split, so we have Delta 1 and Delta 2. Like you do a lot of the times. Delta 2 is actually Jace, Dom, and Cole, while Delta 1 is Baird, Marcus, and Alex. While Jace's team, Delta 2, is going through and looking for things, you have it where Cole actually stumbles upon and sees one of the birthing areas and that's still active. And you see that in the tubes, there are actually fetuses that are being grown inside of them. So the birthing portion of things is still happening at Jelaine. It's kind of weird because it's like, this place was overrun by Locusts. Like, how is this still happening? Like, what's going on? And while they're all theorizing this, you have it where Jace is outside the door like, yeah, I don't want to see what's going on in there. I'm good. I'm staying right over here. I'm just going to guard the door. Because again, he loves children. He doesn't really want to see a bunch of fetuses just floating around in tubes. That's just not his MO. While guarding the door, actually, and also with Dom and Cole, they hear something in the distance. They hear gunfire going off, and they figure there's only one group that could be firing guns right now because we're all here. So they immediately make a rush over to find Delta 1. They make it there in time to see Delta is fighting a tribe of women that are living there called the Grievous Bodily Love. Now, the Grievous Bodily Love are basically like Amazonian women. That's basically the shtick that the comic is going with. The lack of armor, the strong women, that's what they're going for. You learn that they are also the ones protecting the children that are there. That is why they are still there. But when they finally get there and the firefight's happening, and they're kind of trying to negotiate, they're trying to, it ain't working, bullets are still firing. You have Delta 2 come up from behind, Lancers pulled, and have them at gunpoint, so they have Grievous Bodily Love surrounded, and that's when everything's finally explained to everyone about what is really going on at Jelaine. Once everything calms down, everyone's hunky-dory, and everything's okay, they finally have it where Delta says, like, we're just here to find a beacon, whatever, we're here to save anyone who's there. The Grievous Bodily Love we don't need your saving, we're doing fine. And you do learn about the children, and Jace loves his children. He goes over and he's talking to them all, and he's like, yeah, how's it going? You know, I'm Jace, I'm part of the COG, you know. Yeah, I hope everyone's doing fine. He is one of the people that stays behind with them to watch over things, while the rest of Delta is sent out to go and figure out what is up with this beacon. While Jace is there, he meets another lady by the name of Thasilla. Thasilla is basically like your go-to like Amazonian woman. Like she takes up the role very nicely. You can probably guess that Jace takes kind of a shine to her because he can't even form the right kind of words to talk to her with, but she's kind of into it because she's into him. Like, she likes how he's with the children and that he's not like the stereotypical COG soldier. Like, he's a lot more like Dom than he is like Baird, where it's just like, you know, he cares. It doesn't matter if you're stranded or not. Like, hey, how's it going, kids? I hope everything's fine. Hey, yeah, you know, we're just here to look for something, make sure everyone's okay and hunky-dory. He's that kind of soldier. So, you know, while that's going on, Marcus and them, they do find the beacon and what's going on, and they learn that the beacon's being set off by one nutso lady, I'm sorry to say, but it's going off. That calls in a bunch of the Locusts that come in to Jelaine, the main area where they are. And while that is going on, Dom hears about what's going on, and he goes and tries to find Jace at this moment. Little though does anyone know that while they are trying to go find Jace, Jace is actually one of the only characters in the series to actually do it, actually getting lucky. While he's trying to get lucky and trying to up his game, he actually does end up getting interrupted by the Locusts. The Locusts actually do cause a problem, and both of them are frustrated beyond belief. While they're getting up and leaving, he does say, I promise we're going to be finishing this later, and she says, I'm going to be holding you to that. And they actually go through and they do start fighting off the Locusts and the Tickers that are actually making their way in to the facility. While they're battling their way through Tickers, they are also thinking, okay, if there's any children on the way there, we need to make sure they are safe and sound. So they keep on battling through. They are actually fighting through a lot of Locusts and a lot of Tickers to meet up with the rest of the group at the main area of the facility. While they're fighting through, they actually do make it, and they meet up with Dom. Dom, along with another character by the name of Camille, and he was originally going with Camille to go and find them, and they were able to fight their way back to them. While they're making their way back, Camille actually does get shot and ends up dying, and the Grievous Bodily Love, they do take this kind of hard because she was one of them, and now they make their way back in with the children, and everyone is now safe in the main, like, bunker area of this facility. We do have it where Delta 1, Marcus's group, is also making their way back. While they're fighting through, there is actually a child that is still left behind. Marcus turns around to go and try and save the child while everyone else gets to the bunker. While doing so, he gets knocked the F out by an elite mauler, like this badass scarred one that just takes him down. Oh, damn. We need to go and save Marcus, but it's decided, I think Baird says it best. We need to close it. We'll lock him in. We gotta keep him out there. And Dom loses it. He is upsetty spaghetti beyond high heavens. So he's losing it. The only sensible ones in the situation are really like Baird and Cole along with Jace, The Grievous bodily are fine too. They're watching over the children. Jace is also there to watch over the children. And it's at this point we learn about who is now in charge in the chain of command. The next person that would be up, out of the 4 we meet in Gears of War, is Baird. Baird is actually the next one up because the best way to put it is how Cole says it. He says it basically as, if anything were to ever happen to Marcus, the next one in charge is Baird. When it comes to me and Dom, yes, Dom has had commando in his training. We are still just warriors. We're still fighters. We're not here to lead. Baird would be the next one. We also learn because of the fact that like Cole never wanted to be in charge of anything. Later on in like 3, he's like he has to take charge of some things, but it's never like he wanted it. And we do learn throughout the story from here on out, Dom has never been really in the best mental mind state to be a leader. It's never been in that state where, yeah, Dom should be in charge. No, his psyche is still not the best to put him in charge. Baird, however, has the previous, with Judgment, we know that he's able to lead a squad. We know that he's been in charge of a squad before. We know that he is smart enough to know what's going on. So that's who they kind of trust in the situation, is Baird being the one to lead, even if some people aren't happy about it. When it comes down to Baird being in charge, what he's trying to figure out during this whole situation is who is the leader right now of the Locust that is attacking us. Who's in charge? So he's trying to figure out who. He doesn't know, so he's trying to come up with a plan. He does figure one out, and what he figures out is the plan. I even had to write this one down just to make sure I had it correct. The plan is that they are going to travel through the vent system where the tickers have been coming into, and it's explained that's how the children traverse throughout the area in case something gets dangerous. So they are going to use those vents to get around. He is going to be going out there, and he is going to be going with a few other people, one of them being Matron, the leader of the Grievous Bodily Love. They are going to be going out there and flanking the Locust leader, who's ever in charge. They're going to make their way around outside. Jace is going to be leading his group to the evacuation area with all the children, so he's leading the children out. And then you have it where everyone else is basically going to be defending, where they're all going to be going there and they're holding things off if things are going to happen. Because right now, if they can make their way around with Baird's group, they should be able to just cut the snake's head off right there and be able to handle everything going on and be able to save Marcus. Jace does elect to go with him instead of with the children, but Baird does say, no, you can't go with me because you will be worrying about the children the whole time and wanting to know if they're okay or not. We're going in there to take these guys out. We're not worrying about any of that. So Jace does say, like, yeah, I'm going to be going with the children then. The plan is initiated and everyone starts going their own ways. You have it where Jace and everyone is going through with the kids, and the kids do start freaking out. The kids get worried about, like, you know, like, I want my mommy, I'm scared, all of this. This is a part of Baird's plan actually still, because he is actually getting the recordings from the vents in the system speakers. He's getting all of that taken in so that he can put it on a loop, so that when the Locusts think that they're out of ammo and they come barging in and they flank them, you're going to think that they're still in there because they can hear the children inside the building saying that they're scared, and they're going to be like, oh, the children are still there. We're going to attack and get them, not knowing that it's all a part of a trap. So that was all a part of that, and Jace does get everyone out. They all get to the meeting area, and it turns out the Grievous Bodily Love this entire time did have vehicles they could escape with and just never told anyone, and that's how they're going to get out, is by taking these vehicles and just scooting on out. Once everybody makes their way back to the evac area, along with Baird and everybody, they get Marcus up. Marcus is injured, but he's still fine. They are going to all be leaving. At this point, a lot of the Grievous are saying, like, no, we're not going with you, or, like, no, like, none of that's going to happen. Baird has a meltdown, basically, and starts just slinging everything at everyone and just being disrespectful. Even Jace steps up and is like, hey, you're being a little bit disrespectful. He's one of the people that are like, Baird, you need to shut your mouth, basically. It is decided, like, okay, fine. I'm here to evac people, whether you like it or not. That was my mission. We're getting people out of here, and it's decided the Grievous Bodily Love, or at least a fraction of them, are going to stay behind and hold off the Locusts that are, because they know there's going to be reinforcements. They're not just going to send one wave. They're going to hold off who's ever left so that everyone can escape. And this is where it's decided that some of the Grievous are going to be going with the Cog, and this is where we have Thasilla. She is also going to be going with Jace and evacuating. Jace and Thasilla's vehicle, while they're leaving, I believe they have it where they have Alex in the back who's going to be giving covering fire while they're driving off. They do learn while they're driving away, though, that Alex is not back there. Alex actually did leave, because Alex and Baird were actually going to go and try and get everyone that was left for Grievous that they could to come back with them. The only one they couldn't save was Matron, the leader, and while they're doing that, they basically are just like, yeah, we're just going to keep driving because we can't really stop. They start going back and they make it to Jacinto. Once there, he sits down and talks with Thasilla, and he's just like, hey, you know, you'd make a great gear. You should join us. You can fight with us. You know, we can be together. And she says, like, no, I have no plans of that. I do plan on returning to be with the children to finish up what's at Jelaine and all of that. I'm going to be doing that still. And she basically says, like, just forget about me. Because he's trying to say, like, I'll come back and visit once a week. She's like, no, don't do that. Just leave it. Just leave it be. You know, it's not that they didn't have feelings for one another, but it's just, she understands that he's going to be put in danger by just doing that. That they can't just keep going back and forth to Jelaine. So she's like, no, like, just let it end. You were one of the good ones. This is just how it's going to have to be. So, unfortunately, that is the end of Jace's flame, unfortunately, and also the end of the story Baron that takes place in Jelaine. They do earn some leave from this mission, so they get some time away from the missions, and during this time, he goes and sees the orphanage like he always does. He goes and checks in on Emma and Lily. Emma is still in her coma, but it's looking like she's more stable and she's all right now. It's not like a touch-and-go situation anymore. She's just comatose, but she's still okay. Like, they're still having hope that she's going to be fine, and it's looking like she will pull through in the long run. So while that's going on, he actually makes a stop after the orphanage to the Rusty Nail. That's the bar that everyone in Gears kind of like goes to while Jacinto's still around. When he goes there, he's actually meeting up with Alex Brand. They actually became good friends throughout all of this, and they are actually, like, it's funny because, like, they're the two most well-known of the comic characters, right up there with, like, Barrick. And it's funny because, like, she does see him as, like, okay, he's a decent guy, he's a decent dude, you know, like, he didn't know anything about the birthing camps, and I get along with him, so they hang out. And they basically go there, and he's talking to her, and they bring up everything about Lily and Emma, and how, you know, like, Emma's doing fine, Lily's still holding out hope, everything's fine, and Alex orders 2 beers, and while they're drinking, actually right on the side, he's taking a swig, and she sees his ear lopped off right here. And she's like, I've been meaning to ask you, what happened to your ear? And he says, hey, that's a story that's going to take some time. And she says, I've got plenty of it. And this is where he gives her the story of Operation Midnight when he was first set into a mission with Gil as a Gear. Later on, we actually cut forward by a few months to the events of Gears of War 2, which is Operation Hollow Storm. During Operation Hollow Storm, we actually have it where Jace is actually sent off to another squad, this time as the leader, because he is promoted to a corporal, I believe. I think I have it written right down. Yes, he is a corporal now, and he is leading Alpha. Specifically, Alpha 7 he is leading. So Alpha 7 is now under his charge. Once he is put in charge, they go down, and they go down at the same time Marcus does. They're down about, like, maybe half an hour to an hour after Marcus goes in with Dom, but they do land down, and once they're in the hollow, they start heading out, and he gets comms from Marcus, and they're talking back and forth, and Marcus is like, good hunting out there, Jace. And Jace is like, you too. Seeing you later. And it's really a nice Easter egg in too, because a lot of people who are really, like, enjoying the comics, we got a little bit of Jace. And little do we know, we still have more of Jace to go through. So you would think, after that little Easter egg in 2, that's the end of his story for 2, right? Well, you're right and wrong, because the events, there's still more to the story. By the game, that's all we see. But event-wise, there's more. Because event-wise, they are continuing their mission through the Hollow, and they come across an escaped Gear. The escaped Gear being Jonathan Harper. It just so happens that at that time, they were fighting through the Locusts. They lost some people. John comes in, and he fights along with Jace's crew. And they are able to actually make it out of the Hollow. While they're out, they're evacuating, getting everyone, and they get people over onto the Ravens. Unfortunately, John is not able to make it out with them. He does end up dying. He gets shot down before he's able to get on. That's where Jonathan Harper's story ends. But he is able to make sure that Jace and everyone can get on, and they all make it out and successfully evacuate. And at this point, the flooding is about to happen at Jacinto and the destruction of Jacinto. Jace does survive. He is on the bird, and he gets out of there. And he is also one of the people that goes over to Port Farol. And that's kind of like where they were going to establish the new Jacinto. But with the conditions that were there and winter coming, they decided it's just not going to work. So they end up finding Vectis, an island that was owned by the COG, and with civilians on there that don't even know what was going on during E-Day and everything. They were cut off from everything. So they end up going there, and Jace is actually a part of some of the crews that come later on after, like, the recon teams, and they start setting up shop over in Vectis, which is, like, quote-unquote, the new Jacinto. During his time on Vectis, this is where we get a lot of the book stuff that happens. So, a lot of the books happen here. Jace is a character that in the books shows up now and then. Alex shows up now and then in the books too, but Jace is like, he's here, he's gone. He's like one of those characters that just appears now and then. Like, he's not a main character, he's just there like, oh yeah, here's Jace. Jace is here. So, there's very minimal of him in the books, but I do have everything from all the books that comes up involving the Vectis Naval Base, from book 2 all the way through 4. I've got all of it right here. So we're just going to cover the little tidbits that he comes up with and what he interacts with and he sees while he's on Vectis. Because he is on there with everyone else fighting, and he is there for major events. It's just, he's never in the spotlight for anything. It's all focused on the main members of Delta, Dizzy, Prescott, Hoffman. You have them as the main, like, what we're looking at. While you have the other side characters that we get now and then, they're just there. Like Sam, you get Karma at the very ending. Just little tiny tidbits of them, but nothing very heavy. So, let's talk about the books quick. During the situation in the books, when Trescu and the Grozny first join the COG, yes, that's a thing that happens. Read the books, they're amazing. There's a situation where they're interrogating Stranded, and outside of there, we have Jace, where he's actually patrolling the naval base where the main headquarters is found on Vectis for everything. And while he's patrolling, he hears a gunshot go off. He thinks it's a misfire, so he goes to check. He meets up and finds Hoffman coming out of a room, and he asks what happened. It's explained to him that Trescu actually ended up executing and killing the Stranded that was being interrogated. That's the gunshot you heard. It's brought up by Jace that he doesn't feel comfortable executions to like prisoners or Stranded or anything. And Hoffman's like, yeah, I'm not really a fan of it either. There's a great scene that happens later on too, where Jace is, actually he goes out and helps Baird out with a situation where there's a bunch of these ships that have been exploding and being destroyed and they don't know what's causing it. So they've been going out and trying to figure it out. They bring in the wreckage of one of the ships for Baird to look over, because Baird is very like smart when it comes to mechanics and building things. And he's trying to figure out what's going on. Jace meets up with him and Jace asks, is it okay if I try and help? Can I try and figure out what's going on with you? And Baird, at this point, is in this smug asshole phase, is like, yeah, sure, knock yourself out, why not? So they actually start looking through it together, and Jay starts coming up with some theories of like, okay, so there's gunshots. Are the gunshots coming from inside or outside of the ship? And Baird's like, that's actually a really, really good question. We gotta take a look at this. They see that the gunshots came from the inside, and Jace jokes like, it's like one of those TV shows where like they're investigators trying to figure out what's going on. And Baird actually, during this entire conversation and situation with Jace, is kind of impressed. He's like, he knows his stuff. He's looking into things. He's like, yeah, Jace is a pretty smart dude when you actually get to know him. And it's not like he's never dealt with Jace. It's just they've never had a lot of interactions, and this was that one time where Baird gained some respect for Jace. Later on, the rest of Delta and Hoffman and them come in to ask what's going on, and they relayed their findings and what they believe could have been the cause of everything. One of my favorite moments from the books is the Emerald Spar. So, the Emerald Spar, when they made the deal with the Grozny for what the Grozny had to bring to the table to the COG, because very quick history lesson for you. The Grozny came across the COG and were like, okay, if our only way of living is teaming up with the COG, we'll do it. The COG's like, what do you have to bring to the table? They have an emulsion platform for mining emulsion, like an oil rig, called the Emerald Spar. And they said, we will give you access to that if you let us join. And, of course, the COG's like, yes, please, let's do it. You got a deal. So they join up there, and at this point, the polyps have become a big thing, where they ride up the stocks and attack. And this is the situation where they attack the spar, and you have COG coming in to assist and fight with the Grozny to defend it. And at one point, Jace does come in later on, and he is also helping to assist and fight with them. He fights with everyone, the Grozny, all of them, to defend it. Unfortunately, it is not enough. The spar ends up getting sunk, and the Grozny and the COG lose their form of how they're getting emulsion. Later on, this is a couple weeks into the future, you actually have it where things have started getting pretty bad on Vectis. Like, the polyps are now becoming an issue. Like, they don't know if the island is safe anymore. So they're trying to move the civilians of the COG closer to the naval base to keep everyone kind of secure. The Vectis citizens are kind of just staying to their own because they already had their homes in the village that was there. Jace is helping build up some of the huts and areas for them to live in. And during all of this, he actually has a confrontation with the civilians, because the civilians are just like, you know, they're worried about the safety of everything. They're worried about what's going on. And Baird actually interjects and sides with Jace, trying to figure out the situation until the civilians leave. And Jace asks, like, hey, Baird, while you're here, can you help me build these huts? And they start talking about the actual safety of Vectis themselves. After they finish building up some of the huts, they decide, hey, let's go get some food at the mess hall. So they start heading there to get some food. When they get there, you actually see that Bernie made Jace some gloves made out of cat. So he's got some, like, cat gloves that he wears to keep him warm. Vectis isn't really a hot place, but it's for, like, basically just for, not even armor, but just for, like, you know, like when they're in colder situations, he's got some gloves to wear. While they're there, Prescott actually has a televised announcement to go through Vectis and the COG, talking about, like, hey, if things were to fall apart here at Vectis, here's the backup plans. And Jace interjects, like, you know, this doesn't look pretty good if you already are putting backup plans into place for if things go to high hell. It just tells us, like, you don't believe this place will last permanently. There's a chance it could fail. That's Jace's thought process of, like, what? You're just putting it in their heads. There's a chance this can fail, and let's see what the other horizons have. Towards the very end of their time on Vectis, and towards the end of the books 2 through 4, we have the situation where Prescott does leave. He abandons the cog, and it's basically run by Trescu, Michelson, and Hoffman, but it does dissolve after a while. It's just not working, and everyone's going their own separate ways. The situation now is, with all 3 of the leaders, they're all fractioning off into their own little areas of the world they're going to be staying in. Nothing is hostile between them. It's just they believe that their way is better, or they have a better shot at this or that. Trescu is taking his people back, the Grozny, with the sub back to where they came from, over in the Grozny area. You have it where Hoffman is heading out to Anvil Gate, and he's bringing his people, and he's also bringing the people of Vectis to Anvil Gate, along with some of the cog soldiers that we know pretty well. Like, you have it where Dizzy is also going over, and he's going to be joining them over at Anvil Gate. And then you have Michelson with everyone on the Sovereign, and you have a lot of gears that are staying there on the Sovereign, along with some cog civilians. So once everything's disbanded, there is one final battle with the Lambent that happened, and once that is finished off, the cog is dissolved, and Jace decides that he will be staying with the Sovereign, and that's where he will be for the rest of his... At this point, they think rest of their days. They know that the war is still going on with the Lambent, and the Locusts are still on mainland, but they're like, this is where I feel that I should be for everything. Jace spends his time on the Sovereign for quite a while. In fact, we have a jump that happens for time. We have a time jump where everyone's kind of there for 14 months later, and we see that everything's still going well. The Lambent have kind of been picking up progress on evolving and coming back more onto land. We see that the Locusts are on land and they're digging in a little deeper, and everyone's basically just trying to survive at this point. You have it where Jace is on the ship, and he's just doing his thing when he's called up over to CIC along with Marcus and Dom. They're called up there because they learn Prescott's come back, and they're like, what? Prescott's back. He's gonna act like nothing happened, I bet, and Prescott's back. And they have Prescott return, and during this, the Lambent stocks come up, and they start to board the ship, and they are now attacking. During all of this, Marcus does receive a data disk from Prescott that he is to go and take a look at what it is. It is a distress message from Adam. It is Marcus's father, which everyone thought was dead. Remember, Jace was there and pulled Marcus out of there basically with Ty. Everyone's under the assumption Adam's been dead. Everyone believes he is dead. Jace even says, I thought he was dead, and it was like, yeah, he's supposed to be dead. That's what we thought. Adam Phoenix is supposed to be dead right now. Once that's done, more Lambent are coming up there. There's a lot of Lambent at this point, and they're attacking the ship, just heavy in numbers. The new mutations have come out. They're pretty much infected Locusts that are attacking. That's what it is. And while all this is going on, they're trying to get over to Prescott in order to keep him safe and get more information. While they're doing that, they're trying to get people evacuated, get Ravens in the air, get people out. We do learn that throughout the entire time they're on the Sovereign fighting against the Lambent and another creature we're going to touch on in a second. All the civilians are basically evacuated and safe. There are still some cog on the ship, but they're basically there to fight, or at least trying to get off. There are still, a good amount got off. I'd say probably 80% of the cog are off of there, but there's still some on the ship involving Marcus, Anya, Dom, Jace. They're still there. And while they're trying to get everything taken care of, they get to Prescott, and Prescott is there in the captain's office, but Michelson's dead, Rivera is dead, Lowe is dead. He's the only one that's still alive. He was able to fight off well enough where he's still kicking and he's in the office. Jace at this point is also wondering, while they're going around, wondering how the ship is going to be repaired. There's a lot of damage. And Marcus says, yeah, it's going to keep Baird busy for a little while. Won't that be great? There's tentacles that start to come into the ship. And you start to learn this is a Leviathan that has now been infected by Lambency. It's a Lambent Leviathan, which Jace has also been involved fighting. Over on Vectis, there was one that appeared. It's just he's never talked about a lot for that fight, so we just jumped over. But Lambent Leviathans are a thing. They're dealing with one face-to-face right now, and it is a big mother humper. While they're trying to figure out how to take this thing down, they end up getting separated, and he gets separated over with Anya. They're trying to find their way around and kind of regroup. Once they actually do regroup, Marcus and Dom actually find Silverbacks, and they take the Silverbacks. They're in touch with Cole and everyone on top side. They're over on the bridge they're coming to, and they can see the Leviathan, and they tell them to get the Leviathan to the front of the ship. So they actually do end up making it to move it there. In their Silverbacks, they go up and they start fighting the Leviathan, damaging it and everything, while Anya and Jace are giving supporting fire while they're doing this, while they're taking care of everything in Silverbacks. During the fight, actually, Cole and Bear do drop down a bunch of Tiggers that are about to blow this thing up. It starts going a little bit crazy, throwing its tentacles. It does separate Jace and Anya once again, because of the fact that this thing's about to blow and a Lambency in explosions big enough. Now we're putting a Leviathan into it. They just tell them to jump ship. So Anya and Jace both jumped ship. while Marcus and Dom, they're able to jump too, but they take a lot more brunt of the explosion. Once they make it to the coast, the Hanover coast, they are able to kind of make it there, and they're fighting their way through, and they're able to like bunker down. During the entire time they're there, they're basically holding out and fighting the Locusts. Anya is kind of trying to stop the bleeding while Jace is fighting. He gets a moment for a sec where he can throw out a flare, and he's able to keep fighting. They do get in contact later on with Marcus and everyone, and like, yeah, Prescott's here, he's not doing too good. They do meet up, and they are able to assist Jace, along with fighting off the rest of the Locust. And at this point, they're able to get more information. Prescott, see how things are going, see if they can save him. They cannot, he is going to die. They get the information from him, and the key that'll unlock the disc for Azura that Hoffman has. A lot of stuff going on at this point, a lot of exposition. A Brumok comes out, a Jace along with everybody else that's there fight this thing off and are able to take it out, which is a very nice feat if you think about it for soldiers on their feet instead of inside of vehicles or heavy weapons. They took out a Brumok. Very nicely done. Once everything is done, it is decided that, okay, Marcus, Dom, Baird, and Cole, they are going to be heading out to Anvil Gate. They're going to try making their way there to get everything over to Hoffman. What they're planning to do is get everything set there, and then they're going to have Anya, Sam, Carmine, and Jace. They're going to help with, like, salvaging, making sure everyone's fine, safety, that kind of stuff to make sure everything's okay, and then they're going to have them meet them back over at Anvil Gate. Everyone's going to meet back over there, but for now, they need to go and take care of that. Someone has to take care of what's left of the Sovereign. And Jace pretty much does what he's supposed to do. He finally does make it with the last convoy of people heading to Anvil Gate. They already had Anya and Sam going before them, and that's when they fought off a lot of the Locusts. So that convoy got there a lot smoother. Once they get there, the information is relayed to him and Carmine about what's going on and the plans to get to Azura. To get there, they need to go through and find a way there, which involves a submarine they decide on. Dizzy says he can definitely pilot it. They just have to get everything they need, fuel and all of that, and they'll be all set. So the groups are split up once again after everyone comes together again. They keep getting together, split up. But, you know, that's just Delta 1, Delta 2. That's how it rolls, baby. It's decided that, okay, Jace, Marcus, Dom, and Anya, we are all going to go, along with Dizzy, to Mercy to go and get fuel. This is Maria's hometown. They kind of check in, and Dom's like, yeah, whatever, let's go do it. While they're doing that, they're going to have the others, for Carmine, Cole, and Baird, they're going to go and find reinforcements. So Jace does go with Delta 1 over to Mercy. Once everyone's inside the trucks and they all separate, they're headed to Mercy. There is a heavily blocked highway on their way there. The Locusts have taken up a lot of the highway. Because of Jace's driving and everyone's guns that they have on, they're using Vulcan guns at the top, basically. They are able to swerve their way and make their way over to Mercy. It is quite a bit of a drive, but they do make it there. On the way, Jace decapitates a Brumok, so that's kick-ass. But they do make it there. And once they're there, they see that the gas lines, the fuel lines for everything have been shut down. They can be reactivated, but right now, someone's got to stay with the truck to keep everything safe, and the others have to go off and do it. So Jace and Dizzy are left there to guard everything. While everything's there, Jace spends a lot of his time just with Dizzy and on the comms. And they learn that, okay, we're making our way there. We're working on getting it going. They learn about the formers that are there, so the lambent humans. So they learn that they are a certain situation that they're dealing with. And they also learn from Dizzy and Jace that, hey, the truck, the fuel truck we have, it's gotten filled with a lot of holes, and there's no way we're going to be able to repair everything. Basically, the other half of Delta 2 that's going out and getting the trucks fueled, they see, like, okay, there's too much going on here. The formers are happening. We got to get out of here. We got to split. While that's happening, the highway where they fought through, the Locusts have been making their way towards them. They make it and actually cut off Dizzy and Jace. Dizzy and Jace, at the very end of the final battle at Mercy, when everyone's fighting off, you have formers, you have lambent, you have the Locusts. They're trying to fight everyone off with low ammo. They're fighting by the trucks. They're able to hide behind the trucks or in the trucks and fight. They have cover, unlike the other half who are fighting out in the open. During this fight, Dom gets cut off from everybody, and Dom is actually up on an area where he can jump off towards the trucks where Jace and Dizzy are. Unbeknownst to Jace and Dizzy, he gets into the fuel truck and he takes it off. He swerves it around towards where they came in from the highway, drives it in, and he actually sacrifices himself by blowing himself up with the fuel truck, and that's what takes out the Lambent and Locust in the area. Dizzy and Jace are able to get behind the trucks for cover from the explosion, while everyone else, Marcus, Anya, Sam, they're able to jump off that platform into safety. But Dom, he doesn't make it, and that's where we decide that since we can't find anything at Mercy, we're going to have to move on to Char. Everyone is driving their way over to Char. They have a lot of an easier time getting there than they did getting to Mercy. Once they arrive at Char, it is a very somber situation, not only because of Dom passing, but because of where they are. Char is basically like a mass graveyard. It's where some of the hammer strikes first hit, and you can see just the ashen statues of people that are left from trying to run or what happened. They're just frozen in time. So Jace sees this, and he's kind of like, this is, like, people live here, like, with all this going on, and Dizzy tells him, like, yeah, people are here. And here they are not too kind to the cog after what happened, especially when you see all the ashen people. While they're getting out and making their way, they decide that Dizzy's going to watch over the vehicles, and they're going to make their way in. They're going to go and try and find emulsion, pretty much anything that can get them up and going for the submarine they have plans for. So while they're going in there, Jace is kind of just trying to have like a back and forth conversation with Anya and Sam about Dom. Marcus stops and says, you don't have to just go around it, you don't have to be quiet about it, he's gone. It sucks. We can't have his sacrifice in vain. We need to continue forward. So that kind of like rekindles some hope. Like, okay, like Marcus took it really hard, but he's like, we have to do this for Dom. Dom gave up his life for us to actually get further. We have to keep going for Dom. And that really does help out a lot. Once they're going inside, they notice all of the ashen people, and they notice that there's moving and there's something going on. There's traps that are being set. It turns out that a Stranded is actually covered his body in ash, and he has actually laid traps to kill off anyone who enters into Char. During the entire time that they're in Char, it's actually a little bit funny because of the fact that the Ash Man, the guy covered in ash, is just letting off all these traps, and Jace is just getting more and more frustrated with this guy, because it's like every time he sets a trap, something happens, or how did he do this, or what's going on, and he's just getting more and more pissed. I find it funny because Jace is just like, just come out and fight at this point, okay? This is just getting goddamn ridiculous. So I always love that because it's like Jace is just, it's like a cat and mouse, and he's just getting so sick of this mouse that keeps running off from him when he's trying to just stop. Just come out and fight if you want. Just come on. They come to a situation where they've been fighting Lambent also in the town. They are able to take out the Lambent that are in an area that has an elevator going up. The elevator comes down to reveal the Ash Man who's been causing all these problems. And of course, no one's happy with the Ash Man, but he says, like, you know, like, Griffin wouldn't be happy with you being here. Jace recognizes the name Griffin. He knows that. Griffin used to be in charge of one of the emulsion facilities. He used to be, like, one of the big shots. And when everything happened, you know, he blamed the cog for it. He hates the cog. So they decide, okay, let's go and meet Griffin. We'll talk to Griffin, and we'll make a deal to get emulsion if he has emulsion at the refineries and everything that he still is in control of. So the Ashman takes him up there, says he doesn't like him. You know, like, Griffin don't like Cog, but I'll bring you to talk to him. And he does. And they make the deal with Griffin. Griffin saying, if you go and you take care of the refinery situation, I will give you emulsion so that you can get out of here. And they take it up because they don't have any other options. So they decide, sure, let's do it. There is one other condition that Griffin kind of lays out, just so that he knows that they're not going to mess with him and cause problems. They do take a captive by the name of Dizzy. They do go and get Dizzy. And they basically tell him, you got 1 hour. And if you're not back here, we kill him. So, get to it. So, yeah, Delta's not too happy, but they're just like, fine. If it keeps Dizzy safe and we're able to get the emulsion, fine, whatever. So they start to make their way. They go down to the ground and they start making their way to the refinery. The situation with the refinery is basically that it's gone quiet. Like, normally people are feeding them through the cart system they have up top the tower to the refinery, but nothing's been happening. So they're going to go there and see what's going on. During their travels, they do come to one of the craters, one of the epicenters of where the hammer hit. And there, Jace is kind of just like, man, must not have been easy. Must have been hard to really hit the button to have this go off. And Anya states like, oh, it was. I was there. Like, it was a very hard thing. And he apologized. And I was like, no, it's fine. Because, again, Jace didn't know any of this. Like, he knew that Anya was, like, around some of the more higher up people because of Helena and her connection to Hoffman. But he didn't know, like, oh yeah, you were there. You know exactly what happened. So they continue to travel there. It's a very dangerous trek there. They're fighting Lambent as they're going. They're worried about Dizzy. They want to make sure he's okay. And Sam basically says, like, hey, I will personally go back and kill him. Everyone that's, you know, got Dizzy right now if I have to rescue him. So as long as Dizzy's safe, I'm a happy camper. They do make it to the refinery. Once they're at the refinery, they notice that it is very empty and there's nothing there. They decide they're going to take the elevators up. While they're in the elevators, they're pretty much basically like, yeah, this is a little too easy. Something's bound to happen. This is a little too easy at the moment. And of course, the formers appear, and you learn that the people at the refinery got infected and they all turned, and that's basically why there's so many formers. Those were the people at the refinery, the employees of Griffin as he sees them. So they do take them out. They're able to ride the elevator up a ways, and while they're making their way to the top, they do fight off a gunker. This is the first time that Jace has seen one. He was not around with Sam and Baird and them when they fought a gunker, so he's kind of caught off guard by this thing, and they do take it out. Sam Smith is like, yeah, we dealt with them, and they finally do make it to the top of the refinery where they get to the cable car system. Once they make it to the top, they actually do get in contact with Dizzy. Dizzy gets in contact on the comms. And Jace is just like, Dizzy, like, did he actually escape? Did he get out of there on his own? You learn the reason he's talking right now is because the guards that had him are not there currently. They're fighting. Because Mira, on top of the Tempest, has made her way there and is attacking the tower. The Locusts have been going up the tower and killing and fighting. It's stated like, hey, me and Aaron are here. You know, me and Griffin, we're fighting. You guys got to get back here right away. So they decide they're going to take the cable car system right around, and they do make it, but they're like 3 to 4 floors before they're at the top. So they have to battle their entire way up the tower. They finally do make it to the top. It's a long fight, but once they make it to the top, the only people that are left up there at the moment is Griffin and Dizzy. And Griffin is pissed to high hell, blaming the Cog for everything, everywhere the Cog shows up, and basically Marcus loses it. He is pissed to high hell, and he says, you and this tower and all this emulsion can go straight to hell. I lost my brother. This is his meltdown moment. And Griffin leaves, and they do take some of the emulsion, and they are able to make their way to Endeavor, where they are now able to go and get the sub prepared. Once they're arriving at Endeavor, it is heavily guarded by the Locusts. They go in, they take out the Locusts, they make their way in. They go through the hangars. They go through Hangar 1, which has like a grounded ship in it that looks very rusted and destroyed. And they're like, I hope everything looks like this. They continue to go through. While they're fighting their way through, they do come across a bunch of webs, and they see that Ceripedes are around. They do take care of the Ceripede situation. Hate Ceripedes, but whatever. And they make it to Hangar 2. Hangar 2 is where you end up finding the sub. The sub, which is by the name of the CNV Adamant. So Adamant is there, and they see that the only things it needs is fueled up, and they need a new rotor in it. So basically they just go through and just play like we're going to go and get the items. Nothing really crazy happens. They just go through, and they're trying to get all the items they need to put it back together. Jace says he was expecting something bigger. That's a tiny sub, but they do say it needs to be small in order for us to get in. The smaller it is, the easier it is for us to get in and out. If it's something large, they're going to see it coming, and they're just going to attack it. If it's small, perfect, bingo. We're in. Once everything is brought together, it's all set to go. They got to get it out of dry dock and get it into the ocean. Doing this, they have to fight through a lot of Locusts. They're going through things left and right. They are fighting through everything that's popping up. They're sending in the Locust, then they send in the bigger Locust and the bigger Locust. Then they send in Armored Cantus, which look badass as ever, but they're a problem because they're armored. So all of this fighting, all the time, they're trying to open up the gates, open the doors to get this thing moving further and further and further. They finally do get this big honkin' sub, to Jace it's small, into the water. Once they get it into the water, they all board in and they start heading out into the ocean to make their way now to Azura. While they're going through the sub, they're making their way to Azura. They are dealing with a lot of other threats. Now they're dealing with Mother Nature and what she has. So, everyone takes up a gunnery area except for Dizzy because he's got to pilot it. So Jace takes up a gunnery position. And they notice a sunken city while they're going through, and he thinks it's very beautiful and it's very nice. But he's kind of just done with sightseeing. He's ready to just get things done with. So they are continuing their way. They have to fight off Manglers. They make their way through that. They have to go deeper to get away from it. They do fight and find a Leviathan, a normal one, which normally Leviathans are only in the Hollow, but after the flooding, they did make their way to the ocean. So now they are out in the ocean, and they've made themselves... looks like they found their way to the deeper parts of the ocean is where they prefer to go to. So, once they're down there, they're going through, and they barely escape this thing without getting harmed. They do make it through. Everyone lives. Jace has had enough of being underwater. He's finished with it. He's like, just get me to the surface. I'm done. I'm finished. Let's go. Let's leave. They do have to fight off some torpedo turrets that are underwater from Azura. They make their way through the underwater portion of the Maelstrom that are whirlpools. Once they do, they are able to come up to the surface and dock on Azura. They are now on the island proper, and the final battle can finally begin. Once they surface up to the top for Azura, they come out to see that it's just death. Everyone is dead. The Locusts have come in. They killed everyone. They were throwing a lot of people into the water, and Jace is just mortified by this. It's just all of these people that are dead. He's also pissed at Prescott because he's just like, When was he ever going to say anything to us? When was he ever going to say a single thing about actual people still alive and living well on Azura? The answer to that question is never. He would have never said a thing. So, there you go. Once they come up there and they see all of it, they are trying to make their way and figure out what is going to happen next, how they're going to deal with this, get the maelstrom taken off, and Adam gets a hold of everyone on comms. Adam tells them how to shut down the maelstrom. They got to take out the generators, and once the generators are down, the maelstrom will shut down also. It does come across Jace's head of just like, it's kind of weird they are dug in this deep to the island. It's not like they just took it over and they're just in the area. No, they're fortifying, they're in there, like, they're really preparing for something. And you learn the reason is because this is where their home base of operations was going to be once the humans were all taken care of and all that was gone, and Lambency was the last thing that had to be dealt with. As far as they were aware, the Locusts, they believed that Lambency would not make it to Azura. And as far as we can tell, it's a yes or no. I mean, when the maelstrom's down, they're able to make it, but when the maelstrom's up, we never see them. So it's up in the air what would have happened. But their base idea was, we can take this island and this is where we're holding up. So that's what the plan was originally going to be for the Locusts. While they're going through, they're battling Locusts left and right. They are heavily fortified here. They're fighting, they're running through mortars, they're doing everything. They finally go through, they're able to get to all the generators, shut down all the generators, but the maelstrom is still running. You learn that the Locusts have now set up backup generators. So it just comes down to it like, okay, screw it. We're not going to go hunting down all these generators anymore. We don't even know how many more there are. So we're just going to take care of the coolant system. We're just going to take out the coolant so that this thing just blows sky high. They do take out the coolant. The entire thing blows. The skies all around them clear up. It's a sunny, nice, happy day. And you see all the reinforcements that are coming in. You see the cog that were from the Sovereign, Anvil Gate. You see them making their way over. You see in the distance, Baird and Cole got their reinforcements. The Grozny are here now. Everyone is here. Everyone is ready for a battle. And everyone's loading up on the island. Everyone gets reunited. You have Baird and Cole. They come up. And at this time, they also got Jack working again. So Jack is with them. And this is when they are also told about the Dom situation, how Dom did pass away. Everyone gets pretty pissed and sad about it. Like, they're ready to fight. When everything's said and done, Marcus gives the order to Jace and also to Sam. You guys need to go and assist with the operations over with reinforcements and get the troops where they need to go. You need to help get them sent to where they need to be. Jace is not a fan. He's like, no, what? And basically it said, like, someone's got to do it, okay? And Jace reluctantly, he goes and does it. Now, once he goes and the full battle is going on throughout, later on, he and Sam both end up coming back with the reinforcements. Well, the reinforcements are already going to the island, but they're coming in for the final part of things, and they are assisting. And once everything is done, the final battle is over. Adam's machine is set off. Mira is dead. The puppies are coming out to, I don't know, make more puppies. You know, the sun is shining, the birds are singing, the sunshine returned, it's perfect. We have it where everyone is down at the end of the tower where the machine went off, and everyone's just talking, congratulating, you know, they're all happy. The war is over, the full war. Locust, Lambent, it's all over. Then they see Marcus and Anya in the distance. Marcus is sitting on the shore. Everyone goes quiet and turns right over to them. And you see the shot with, like, the characters that were from this game that we came to love, from the franchise in general, are all watching over this. One of my favorite lines, you know, what was it all for? And the answer was, a tomorrow. We get a tomorrow, Marcus. You know, like, you don't have to worry about, like, what the future will hold anymore. Like, living day to day. You get to expect, I can wake up tomorrow. I'm not going to die today. I can wake up tomorrow. And all the characters get their tomorrows. And we learn, because Jace is still around by the end of the story, what Jace is up to from that point until where we are. Jace actually retires. Once everything is over, probably a little bit after, he probably stuck with the cog for a little while, but he retires. He leaves the cog. Because now that everything is done, the war is done, he doesn't have to fight anymore. He decides that he wants to pursue the arts and the culture brought back to humanity. Humanity is almost gone, and he decides, I want to jump into that field. I want to help with that. With that, he starts the Jace Stratton Pictures, which is his own company, and with this, he decides that he is going to become an actor. He's going to start having his own corporation for creating movies, making movies, and he is in charge of it as an actor and as the owner. 25 years during all of this, while everything's being rebuilt, we have the situation where the settlements are made, and he is actually over in Settlement 2. At Settlement 2 is a situation where the Swarm have now come into the world. The Swarm are the rebirthing of the Locusts, basically. They've come out of a metamorphosis after 25 years. And there is a burial site that's really close to Settlement 2 that's about to pop, and this is where Jace is. He's at Settlement 2. He is there to actually be in the theater, in the play, to be playing as Nassau Embry. When the evacuations are happening, he is also evacuated out. Once they get over to where the playhouse was, they ask just like, is he going to be safe? Is he going to be fine? Dell's asking this, and Marcus is like, Jace will be good. He's a former COG soldier. He's good. He's golden. He survived all the way through E-Day, all the way to the end of the war, 25 years apiece, and now the Swarm. We do not see him physically in 5, but he is still alive, and where his desk was, his makeup desk, we find Barrick's lighter from back in Zeta. He carried it this entire time. He always carried Zeta with him, no matter what. All the way from when he was a child to where he's in his 40s to 50s. He still has it with him. And that was like icing on the cake for me. I loved it so much. So, that's going to do it for Jace's stuff. Just a few more things to cover. Like, for instance, something I covered with all the other series we did with it all. Where is he now? What's the current status? We don't know, but we know he's alive. We know Jace is still around in the world somewhere. And he is still fully able to fight. He's still fully fine. Nothing's wrong with him. He's just more of a thespian now. So Jace could easily pop up in 6. He could pop up in anything, really. He's all set to go. It's time to put a Lancer back in his hand, and let's see what we can do. I like it. I'm really happy about that. Overall, talking about a lot of things involving him, he's probably one of the characters that pop up the most. By the length of this video right now, I believe he's probably going to be longer than Hoffman, possibly. He's just around for everything. He's everywhere. Whether it's small roles, big roles, his own comic series, he's there. Even right now, he's still alive, and he's somewhere in the world. I was always 50-50 on Jace. I didn't like him. I didn't hate him. I was just eh. But, really going through and looking at his character, I'm like, no, we need a character like Jace. I think Jace was a very nice addition to everything. I think it was really nice. I think him in the comics is a very great thing. I think his comic adaptation is perfect. If someone just played 3 and didn't know about comic Jace, you're missing out. Comic Jace is a load of fun. I like it. Like I said, one of the only characters to really, on screen or on paper, really start getting frisky. It's kind of funny because it's you don't see that a lot in Gears, so it threw me back the first time. I'm like, oh, we're actually doing this right now. We're actually going to have a sex scene. Okay, I guess we're doing this. But yeah, that's Jace Stratton. He is the final member of the Zeta Squad discussion series. I am happy as ever we got to cover him. I knew it was going to be a big one. I was preparing. The notes itself are long as ever. It is the longest amount of notes I've ever written for a character just to cover everything. And yeah, I want to thank everyone for watching. I want to thank everyone for making this possible. Thank the patrons for making this possible. When we come back, we'll be covering some more discussion series, and then we'll be filling out the rest of the year with just stuff I want to talk about. Probably going to talk about some Gear 6 stuff. Looks like there's some stuff coming around the bend for that. But yeah, love you all to death. Later.